Welcome to a new video from As a Man Thinketh, Chapter 5, Serenity. In this chapter, James Allen reveals a timeless truth, that calmness of mind is one of the most beautiful jewels of wisdom. But this serenity does not arrive by chance. It is not gifted by the world, nor can it be purchased from it. Instead, it must be earned, cultivated, and deeply lived. This strength is quieter, deeper, and far more enduring. It is the strength of a calm and centered mind. In this chapter, James Allen introduces us to one of the highest virtues a man can cultivate, serenity. But to understand its value, we must first strip away the illusion that calmness is weakness. Society often celebrates outward force, boldness, speed, reaction, ambition, yet it overlooks the quiet majesty of a man who is inwardly at peace. Such a man might walk unnoticed in a crowd, but his presence is felt. He becomes an anchor to others, a point of stillness in a world flooded with noise. He does not get pulled into chaos, instead, chaos bends in his presence. Why? Because he has mastered himself, and this mastery shines through in his unshakable calm. Serenity is not indifference. It is not detachment or apathy. It is not the lifeless stillness of someone who has stopped caring. Rather, it is the vibrant silence of one who understands the rhythms of life and no longer resists them. The serene man is not void of emotion, but he is not ruled by it either. He feels pain, loss, disappointment, but these things do not consume him. He moves through them with awareness, with balance. His peace is not based on what happens around him, but on what happens within him. And this kind of calm is not something you're born with. It is earned through years of patient self-discipline, through failures and realizations, and through the daily choice to rise above reaction and live from principle. Allen writes that calmness is the beautiful jewel of wisdom. Just like a diamond is formed under pressure, so too is serenity born from life's difficulties. It emerges when we stop living from impulse, and start living from understanding. The person who truly understands himself, his desires, fears, and thoughts, becomes less disturbed by the behavior of others. He no longer needs to control the world because he has already gained control over himself. And that self-control produces a quiet confidence, a dignity, a silent strength that inspires trust. People feel safe around such a person. They feel understood, not judged. And most of all, they sense that this calmness is not fake, it is real, earned, and deeply rooted. But the question arises, how do we get there? How does one become calm in a world that constantly pushes us to react, defend, and prove ourselves? The answer lies in the work of the inner world, in the discipline of thought, the purification of motives, and the examination of our reactions. Serenity is not achieved through withdrawal from life but through deeper engagement with it, by choosing conscious response over unconscious reaction. Each moment of anger resisted, every temptation to argue replaced with listening, every panic replaced with reflection, all of this becomes the training ground of serenity. Just as a tree must send its roots deep into the earth to remain unmoved by the storm, so must a man send his awareness deep into truth to remain unmoved by the storm of life. A man of calm demeanor may not hold titles, wealth, or status, yet people instinctively trust him. Why? Because calmness is a form of unspoken authority. In moments of panic, others turn to him without being asked. In times of confusion, they watch his face to read what they cannot find in their own hearts. The calm man does not demand attention, his very stillness commands it. He does not argue to prove his point, yet his words land with gravity. He doesn't need to boast of his wisdom, for his peace already reveals it. James Allen tells us that such a man is not made overnight. He is the result of long cultivation, like a tree that grows slowly, silently, and surely, becoming a place of shade and strength for all who come near. This man, whom the world now respects, once had to battle within himself, repeatedly. He was once reactive, frustrated by circumstances, thrown into turmoil by others' opinions. But somewhere along his path, he began to observe himself. He saw how easily he was disturbed by things he could not control. He saw how often his mind was the very source of his suffering. And in this honest confrontation with his own chaos, he made a powerful choice, to no longer be ruled by it. Bit by bit, he trained his mind the way a musician trains the hand, with practice, with patience, with presence. He began to see life not as something happening to him, but something he was participating in, and shaping, through every thought, every feeling, every choice. The serene man, then, is not just calm, he is wise. Because he has discovered a universal truth, that a person is not disturbed by what happens, but by how they think about what happens. And this realization changes everything. It brings a kind of inner spaciousness, where events are no longer seen as personal attacks, but as part of life's larger unfolding. When someone criticizes him, he doesn't feel the need to retaliate, because he understands that criticism reveals more about the critic than it does about him. When challenges appear, he does not collapse, for he has faced many storms before and knows that they, too, shall pass. His calmness is not ignorance, it is insight. It is a perspective rooted in clarity, not illusion. Allen emphasizes that self-control is the foundation of serenity. And self-control is not about suppression, it is about redirection. It's the conscious choice to pause, reflect, and respond with purpose. The serene man knows that emotions are like waves, they rise, they fall. But he doesn't build his life around them. Instead, he rests in something deeper, the bedrock of conscious awareness. He has learned that the world does not need another person adding to its noise, but someone who can quietly hold space for truth, reason, and compassion. His calm becomes a gift to those around him, not because he gives advice, but because his presence reminds others of what is possible. This kind of calm is rare in our modern world. We live in an age of speed, distraction, and reaction. Everyone is in a rush to speak, to prove, to win. But serenity doesn't rush. It doesn't chase validation or fear silence. It knows that silence is powerful, that stillness can be more influential than 1,000 frantic movements. And perhaps this is why, as Allen observes, the calm man is always loved. Not in a sentimental way, but in a deeply human way. People feel something sacred in his stillness. They may not be able to explain it, but they know it when they feel it. True serenity does not come from escaping the world, it comes from understanding it. Many believe they can find peace by avoiding conflict, isolating themselves, or detaching from responsibilities. But James Allen speaks of a different kind of peace, a peace that is active, not passive. A peace that moves through the world fully awake, fully engaged, but entirely unshaken. The calm man doesn't run from difficulty, he faces it with clarity and grace. He doesn't pretend the world is perfect, he simply refuses to let its imperfections disturb the deep waters of his inner life. His serenity is not dependent on outer harmony. It is rooted in inner harmony, the alignment of thought, intention, and action. And how does one achieve such inner harmony? Allen tells us that it comes through knowledge of self. To understand others, we must first understand ourselves. To be at peace with life, we must first be at peace with our own minds. The person who is constantly disturbed by others is often the one who does not yet know the storms within. They blame the world for their unrest, unaware that their mind is the very source of the turmoil they wish to escape. Allen encourages us to look within, not with guilt or shame, but with deep honesty. What thoughts dominate your day? What emotions arise again and again? What fears control your choices? Until we can sit in silence with our own minds, we will never find the calm we seek. Serenity is born from this quiet self-observation, a kind of inner listening that doesn't judge, but simply notices. And in this awareness, transformation begins. We start to see the patterns that have ruled us. The ways we react without thinking. The habits we justify but never question. And slowly, gently, we begin to reclaim our power. We stop giving the keys of our peace to other people, to fleeting events, to every passing mood. We begin to build a foundation inside ourselves, one brick at a time, made from presence, truth, and choice. And on that foundation, calmness naturally arises. Not because life becomes easier, but because we become stronger, clearer, and more awake. Allen makes it clear, to be calm is to be strong. Not strong in the way the world often defines strength, loud, aggressive, forceful, but strong in the way that truly matters, the strength to remain centered when everything is pulling you off balance. The strength to choose silence over argument, presence over distraction, and wisdom over impulse. The calm man has nothing to prove, and in that, he proves everything. His serenity speaks louder than any performance. It is his way of living, not his words, that teach others what true strength looks like. In this way, serenity becomes a form of leadership. Not leadership by position or authority, but by example. People are drawn to those who radiate peace, not because they have answers, but because they have peace. And in that peace, others find permission to slow down, to breathe, to reconnect with something deeper in themselves. This is the true power of serenity. It not only transforms the one who possesses it, but also elevates everyone around them. James Allen reminds us of a universal law that most overlook: serenity is not accidental. It is the effect, the visible result, of a series of unseen causes. And just like no tree grows without a seed, no lasting calm can exist without deep inner cultivation. The world may speak of peace of mind as if it were a prize you stumble upon, a lucky break, or something you receive from a vacation, a relationship, or a material gain. But Allen says no, serenity is a fruit, and like all fruits, it grows only after labor. It is born from discipline, from inward honesty, and from living in alignment with truth. The man who is serene today has likely faced great inner storms, and rather than run from them, he studied them, endured them, and emerged with wisdom. Every moment of inner restlessness has a cause. Every pang of anxiety, every flash of anger, every tightening of fear, all of these are not random, but effects. And behind them lie thoughts, beliefs, interpretations, memories, and habits. A man may not know the source of his unease, but that doesn't mean the source isn't there. To become calm, one must trace the effects back to their roots. This is the path of the wise, to ask, what is this feeling trying to show me? Where is this reaction truly coming from? When we examine ourselves this way, not with judgment but with curiosity, we begin to see the hidden machinery of the mind. And it is in that awareness, not resistance, that healing and calm begin. Allen teaches that when a man truly understands cause and effect, not just in the outer world, but within his own being, he steps into a place of deep power. He stops blaming the outside world for his mood. He stops saying, "They made me angry," or "This situation is ruining my peace." He recognizes that his reaction is his own, and thus, it can be unlearned, transformed, and replaced. The moment he sees this truth, he reclaims his authority. He begins to shape his thoughts with care, as a gardener shapes the soil, removing weeds of fear, planting seeds of strength. Over time, with quiet repetition, a new inner landscape forms. One not filled with mental noise, but with clarity. One not choked by reaction, but softened by understanding. In this process, serenity reveals itself not as an end goal, but as a natural result of inward harmony. Just as a musician who has mastered his instrument creates beautiful music without effort, so too does a man who has mastered his mind radiate calmness without trying. He does not need to control every situation, because he no longer seeks control for security. He no longer feels the need to correct others to protect his ego. He does not see life as something to conquer, but as something to cooperate with. In this way, serenity becomes the atmosphere of his soul, not a momentary mood, but a permanent climate. And so, Allen gently calls us to take responsibility. Not in the harsh, blame-filled sense, but in the liberating sense. He invites us to become aware of our thoughts, to question our reactions, to sit quietly in the storm and ask, what can I learn here? And as we do this, layer by layer, the chaos within begins to settle. The mind becomes less like a battlefield and more like a garden. And in that garden, serenity blooms, quietly, effortlessly, and beautifully. James Allen makes a bold and beautiful claim: calmness is power. But not the kind of power most people chase. Not power over others. Not domination, manipulation, or the thrill of control. No, Allen speaks of a subtler, far greater strength, the power to remain undisturbed in the face of adversity. The power to hold your center when the ground beneath you shakes. The power to respond instead of react. This kind of power doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't even need to be recognized. It simply is. And when it's present, it changes everything, not just for the one who possesses it, but for everyone they touch. This is the power of presence. The calm man walks into a room, and the energy shifts. Not because he demands attention, but because he radiates something rare, peace amidst noise, order amidst chaos. He doesn't rush, but he's never late. He doesn't argue, yet he persuades. He doesn't dominate, yet he influences. And all of this flows not from external force, but from internal mastery. He is powerful not because he controls others, but because he has learned to control himself. And that is the greatest form of strength, the ability to govern one's own mind. Let us look more deeply. In today's world, strength is often mistaken for aggression. People confuse volume for conviction, anger for authority, and speed for effectiveness. But Allen reverses this myth. He shows that true power arises not from frantic motion, but from deep stillness. It is the man who has nothing to prove who often proves the most. The one who needs no defense is the most secure. The one who refuses to be baited by pettiness, who lets insults dissolve into silence, he is the true master. Because his power is internal, it cannot be stolen. It cannot be shaken by another's words, moods, or judgments. His calmness is not passive, it is a conscious, steady force. There is also a spiritual dimension here. Allen gently suggests that serenity connects us to something higher, not necessarily in a religious sense, but in a deeply human one. When a man becomes still within, he begins to sense the larger rhythms of life. He no longer resists reality, but flows with it, adjusts to it, works with it. And in doing so, he becomes a co-creator with life itself. His power, then, is not separate from the world, it is in harmony with it. His calmness allows him to hear what noise drowns out, wisdom, intuition, and inner truth. While others scramble for answers outside, he finds clarity within. So what does this mean for us? It means that to become powerful in the way Allen describes, we do not need to become louder, richer, or more visible. We need to become quieter inside. We need to practice stillness, not as a one-time event, but as a way of being. We need to observe our reactions, question our assumptions, and root our actions in truth. It means we stop chasing power, and instead cultivate peace, because in the end, the two are not separate. As Allen teaches, he who is calm has already won, not over others, but over himself. And that is the only victory that truly lasts. As we reach the close of chapter 5, James Allen leaves us with a powerful idea, one that elevates serenity beyond a personal quality and frames it as the highest achievement of self-mastery. To be calm is not just to be emotionally composed, it is to have arrived at a state of inner order where one's thoughts are purified, one's emotions are understood, and one's actions flow from wisdom, not impulse. It is the crown of character. A calm mind is not easily attained, it is the reward of deep, deliberate living. And yet, Allen insists, it is within reach for all who are willing to walk the path of self-discipline, inner reflection, and truthful living. This final reflection ties everything together. The man who is calm has become so because he has conquered himself. He no longer fights the world, because he has made peace with his own nature. His desires are not wild and conflicting, they are aligned. His fears do not control him, they inform him. His anger does not erupt, it is understood, dissolved before it can take root. In this man, the storms of emotion no longer control the ship, they are acknowledged, navigated, and gently passed through. His serenity is not indifference, it is deep engagement, guided by intelligence and self-knowledge. Allen writes, the strong, calm man is always loved and revered. Why? Because his presence gives others a taste of what they long for in themselves, balance, steadiness, peace. He becomes a lighthouse in a storm, not shouting at the waves, but standing firm in silent guidance. And others, unconsciously or not, are drawn to that still point. In a noisy world, calmness becomes magnetic. In a divided world, it becomes healing. In a frightened world, it becomes inspiring. This is why serenity matters, not only for our own sake, but because it multiplies peace in the world simply by being expressed. But the journey to this state is not easy. Allen does not pretend otherwise. It demands that we look at our thoughts with brutal honesty. It asks us to confront the shadows we've avoided, to let go of habits we've justified, to rise above moods that feel natural but are rooted in fear. It means choosing patience over urgency, understanding over anger, silence over retaliation. Over and over again. And each time we choose calmness, we strengthen it. We reinforce a new identity, one not defined by reaction, but by reason. One not shaped by circumstance, but by inner choice. In the end, serenity is not a goal to chase, it is a condition to create. And it is created moment by moment, thought by thought, breath by breath. Through discipline, through mindfulness, through compassionate awareness of ourselves. It does not come from a perfect life, but from a well-lived one. And as we cultivate this inner state, we discover a truth that Allen quietly celebrates throughout this chapter: when a man is calm, he is free. Free from fear. Free from turmoil. Free to see clearly, to choose wisely, and to live deeply. Calmness, then, is not just a virtue, it is liberation. This was Chapter 5, Serenity, from As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, a timeless lesson on the quiet power that shapes great lives. If you found value in this exploration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Limitless Growth, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. And if you haven't already, check out the full playlist of As a Man Thinketh to continue your journey into the power of thought. Watch the full series here, Limitless Growth YouTube channel. We'll see you in the next chapter. Until then, stay calm, and stay limitless.